Guys, welcome back to another YouTube video. Now today we're going to be talking you through the reverse peak week. So it is a peak week nightmare that most people don't even know about. They don't even know it exists, but it is there and it has been used, and I've used it personally when I was competing in bodybuilding, doing back-to-back shows. Now this is for those that truly want to understand how to peak when you're perhaps not in a position where you're extremely depleted. You want to look your best. This guy, right, that's gone through this with me, we've been working together now for the past 6 months, and we done it for a photo shoot. So it wasn't an extreme photo shoot. It wasn't one of those where we were chasing an insane condition, but it was one of those we just wanted to look our best for this photo shoot that had been sprung on us last minute over the last couple of weeks, and we were already in a fat loss phase anyway. So guy's a lifestyle guy. He loves going out. He loves his food, loves his food more than anything. He loves drinking. He does actually really love drinking. So it's something we've had to work around. And also, he loves traveling. He works in a very, he's very career driven. He's got a job that's demanding. He's traveling all over the world. He lives in Dubai full time, and he's from Australia, and he's dotting across Europe. So he's literally all over the place, right? But we have had an insane journey. It's been very exciting for me on my side of things working with this guy. The guy's name's David. I'm probably going to get rid of his last name if I can without you seeing it. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm just going to get rid of that. We're just calling him David for today. So he knows who he is. We're going to pull up the photos anyway, but I don't want to put his full name up there. I don't know why, but I just don't want to. So anyway, the plan for this going forward, right, is to actually make sure that for this shoot, because he wasn't completely skinned, shredded before going into this final week, which peak week, by the way, people think you can perform miracles with it. If you're not shredded, if you're not at the point where you have literally 3 to 5% body fat, you're not going to be able to manipulate things in an extreme manner. However, if you're at the upper limit of maybe 5 to 8% body fat, then manipulating carbs and a little bit of water intake is going to be beneficial for you. If you go to the lower extremes and you're really trying to manipulate the look for stage or for a photo shoot, that's when you can start to really play about with things like sodium, making sure that we're managing everything to just make the muscle as full as possible with glycogen. We're making sure the intramuscular triglycerides are full to the brim as well. So we've got everything popping, as well as intramuscular water retention as well. We want everything perfect, and we don't want any extracellular water. We don't want anything outside of that, just kind of creating that film that can make you look 8 weeks out. So, by the way, this is not, I just want a disclaimer as well. I've been an athlete myself in terms of competing on an amateur level to a decent level on the amateur stage, but it's not something that we do full time with PB. We are completely lifestyle based. It's just this guy was very interested in it, and we wanted to see what we could do. Now, thankfully, with our background, with our knowledge, we know how to manipulate things in this scenario. And the last thing I want to say is, not only was this peak week, but sprung on us last minute again. Over the first 2 days, we were actually on a last minute trip from the Monday to the Wednesday and flying back Thursday. We had to go to Spain from Dubai. Right, so you can imagine now, any bodybuilder, anyone trying to manipulate this to the extreme level would be like, this is impossible. I can't do this. I'm so stressed out of my mind. But immediately I just thought, no, perfect time to use a reverse peak week. And with this reverse peak week, all you simply do is you actually load the carbs earlier than planned. So we actually fill ourselves to the brim earlier in the week, and then we drop all of the extracellular water as we go through that week, and then we manipulate on the last day with a little bit of water manipulation to just get that clean look and make yourself look as shredded as possible while still holding the fullness that we've already preloaded the body with glycogen. So a misconception, just to dispel one myth first of all, and I will show you this exactly as I go through it, but just to dispel one myth. People think that you have to carb up 30 minutes before a session, get those last little bits of sugars in. You really do not. It takes time for the body to digest carbs, to actually store carbs, especially storing it as glycogen inside the muscle. It is something you can do for a very long time. I don't know if you've noticed, but when you go into an initial fat loss phase, you've probably noticed that first week you drop a lot of body weight. And not only is that just coming from extracellular water retention, just water retention in general, but also some glycogen being depleted. That is what's taking place there. And as you go further and further and further into a dieting phase, into a fat loss phase, whatever you want to call it, you will then start to notice that your glycogen levels start to become so depleted that you get this feeling called flat. And when you're flat, it is very difficult to then starting to get a pump, get good contractions, because your muscle cell is not actually storing much glycogen at all. So there is no direct source of energy there to actually create that feeling that you get when you get a full pump feeling, right? This is what we want for a photo shoot though. So after a long period of being in a fat loss phase, being in that depleted state, and then getting to the point where we've dropped all the body fat, this is why people have a peak week. The peak week is simply for maybe 3 things. Remove fatigue, which as well will drop a lot of water. Anything like that will just kind of dispel itself. So that's why we reduce cardio as we go down through the week. You'll see the steps reduce. You'll see that fatagio, that's actually a really good word. Cardio reduces, fatigue reduces, fatagio, if you want to call it that. That's actually class. I love that. The salt intake, we monitor that a lot more, so we make sure we're not having big, sort of increases in salt and decreases in salt. We want to keep it consistent throughout the meal. We water load. So what we're doing is we're just basically controlling the body's, I'm not sure on the exact term for it, to be honest with you, but it's one of those things where your body starts to get used to the amount of water we actually are ingesting, and it can't react quick enough for when we cut it out. So when we do cut it out, your body will still start to excrete water at the same pace that it was usually with the amount of water that was going in, and we just don't replace it at that point. So it's not dangerous at this level. It can be dangerous depending on the extremes that people go to, especially when they actually use pharmaceutical diuretics. That's when it becomes dangerous. And how we supplement that, instead of using diuretics, the most natural way of doing this is just by using vitamin C. Vitamin C is a water-soluble vitamin, meaning, and it also can't be stored in the body as well. So what it does is, as it excretes, because you're overloaded, you're basically over-consuming vitamin C, it's going to pull out water molecules with it as well. So it's just an aid to pull out and excrete as much water as possible, hence why we use the chewable format as well, so we don't have to swallow any water when we take it, and we can use it first thing in the morning on the day of the shoot itself as well. Information overload there, but I want to talk you through this reverse peak and what we're doing. We have adapted to the scenario being flown out to Spain, the possible water retention from the flight itself as well, but we've also then just accounted for the inability to train and inability to track whilst this last minute flight, right? He was at a hotel where he didn't have access to a gym. He didn't really have access to meal prep because he was with his guys, and as a lifestyle client, he didn't really want to be going out and like meal prep and everything. So we just said, right, let's monitor calories. Let's be as close as possible as we can to the macros by just tracking and being aware of what we're having. Obviously, we can't weigh everything when we're on the go, but we're in a foreign country. We'll do our best. And we did exactly that. We carb loaded. We hit the calorie target. It was basically what we were going to be loading anyway, but we were doing it a lot earlier. So then, how did we actually monitor that as we came back? We looked at the visuals day by day. We looked at everything that was coming through, all of the data that was coming through, how he was responding, how he was feeling. Fatigue was slipping away. Cardio was not being done, which was all great. So as we got to this next day then, he'd enjoyed himself out in Spain just like any other time. He had more calories than he would have usually. So he literally enjoyed it almost like he would a holiday. Maybe not like most of you would a holiday, but he did. He enjoyed himself. And then as we come back, we went into this fat loading stage, which is usually what we would do prior, because it just supplements for the carbs as we bring the carbs in, loading with fats first, especially when you're extremely depleted, which most people never are, so they don't need to fat load. But it's become a trend lately where, especially when people are pushed to the absolute end of prep, they haven't had these refeeds throughout, they haven't been filled back up, and they are extremely flat. You probably do need to have a few days of fat loading first, get the intramuscular triglycerides back up to where they need to be, then filling up with carbs. But I've called it fat loading. It's basically a low calorie day. So what we've done is we've reduced carbs, we've reduced calories, we've allowed the water to kind of seep out of our cells back into that fat loss state, but to not rip through all of the glycogen that we've just stored, what we've done is we've then moved into a training session where we're not trained to failure, no top sets, nothing to failure, like I said, 3 reps in reserve, which is something I hate writing down, but we've got to do it on these last couple of days, and 15 reps minimum, not to failure again. So not pushing to burnout, literally just to get some blood flow, just to get a pump, just to get the body moving again. That's all it's about. So we're not ripping through everything we've just worked hard to load, so we're not burning through it. So we're still full, we're still extremely full, and we're testing the waters as well to see how quickly we can get a pump at that point. So That's the plan with this reverse peak, is to get the body primed and ready. And I'll tell you why this is safer to do it this way, right? If you're a beginner or if you're going into a show. Let's say now you've prepped for 12, 16, 20 weeks, wherever it is. And then you decide the last 2 days before a show, you peak when maybe you're not ready, you're not experienced, you've never done this before. You may lose the look completely. You may overspill. You may have that extracellular film of water that looks absolutely terrible. You look 8 weeks out, all that work has just gone and you're embarrassed on stage or in the photo shoot, whatever it is. If you do this reverse load, then you have days to rectify. You have days to rectify what you've just done. You could even have this first load, realize, right, I've actually loaded up way too much. My body, I'm not the mass monster Ronnie Coleman I thought I was. I don't need 1,000 grams of carbs. Most people don't. I can just pull back now the last couple of days, get myself into a good situation, get nice and lean again, probably look even better, and I'll be good to go. The reverse peak is much safer. It's not the best way to do it, but it is a way of doing it. And that's why having a skilled coach or someone behind you that understands this, if you're going through this for a shoot or whatever reason, it's worth doing. So that's to summarize it. You basically just load up first instead of loading up last, and then you just monitor the look as you go through and manipulate water, sodium, whatever else you need to get yourself into that position where you're ready for the shoot. And then depending on the look on the day, like that protocol could be a whole video in itself. But yeah, it's something I rarely talk about because, to be honest, this isn't something we specialize in. It's not something we do all of the time. But I think we've nailed the look. Like if I was to obviously, shout out to Fit Visuals, who's taking these photos, because we haven't had the full professional photos back yet. But I got David's permission to just talk about this. And as you can see, like I said, not stage shredded, but the look we actually managed to achieve for this, considering the circumstances, is actually insane. Like, this is as good as 99% of people would dream of looking like. So when I see these photos come through, because I got to be honest, I was a little bit worried just because of the travel involved in this. I didn't know how well things were going to go. But this is absolutely sick. Like, the photos are insane. To be able to do a hanging leg raise and look that good without having any sort of, fold in your abs or anything. You've got the abs on show whilst doing a hanging leg raise. That's hard to hit. And the quads being absolutely pumped there. Got some vascularity coming through too. So I think this is my favorite shot. But overall, it's insanely good for someone. Like I said, you'd think this is a guy that takes his training like extremely, extremely serious. But he does train hard. It is a part of his life, but it's not his main priority. He has got a career that he's extremely driven with. Like, he really wants to progress in his career. He works hard with that. He works hard. He parties hard as well. Like, he has that good balance between going out, enjoying a few drinks, enjoying meals out, enjoying good food a lot. But yeah, so very impressed with David, and it's been a pleasure to work with, especially being out there in Dubai, and some opportunities coming up with us working together further in future on different things as well, which is exciting. So yeah, I just wanted to get this video out there because I thought it was cool. Everyone's all about being so like optimal, by the book these days, and I feel like everyone just kind of regurgitates what they hear from the people they look up to as what the best approaches are, whereas we've been in the game so long, we understand this inside out. That's why we've taken this approach. We've been able to because we understand it. So yeah, it's been an interesting one. Definitely not the prep you've probably seen or the peak week you've probably seen before, but this reverse peak does work, and this is proof right here. So any questions, like, comment them below. I hope this helps. I hope you find it entertaining, and maybe give it a go sometime. Let me know how you get on. But anyway, thank you, subscribe, and we'll see you soon.